Hi, I'm Roberto Jorquera, reporting here for Direct Action in the city of Merida, and I wanted to give people somewhat of a brief assessment or analysis of what happened in the November 23 elections for governors and mayors. And I think one thing which, and firstly a very important part of it, is that it has to be put into context of the previous elections for mayors and governors in Venezuela, where you had a situation where the majority of the opposition overwhelmingly did abstain or did not participate in any real sense in those elections. And so it inevitably meant that there were sections of the Chavista movement who were running for mayors and for governors that got elected, quite surprisingly, that they weren't expecting to be elected. So this election in some ways brings it back to a more clear political situation. That is, that it clearly defines a little bit more exactly the support that the Chavista forces have on the ground, and also that is the electoral support they have, and also the support that the opposition has on the ground. One of the aspects of the election that is also very telling was the votes. That the opposition got 4.3 million votes, and that is quite telling, because that's not in any way an increase in the vote that the opposition is receiving in electoral terms. That is, they got a very similar vote during the presidential elections and also the referendum for the Constitution last year. So we can see that over the last 2 years there hasn't been an increase in the support for the opposition on electoral terms. However, for the Chavista forces, it does mean that there is definitely a section of the Chavista forces which are much more volatile in their support, electoral support or voting for Chavista forces when it comes to the bourgeois elections. That is, that many of the Chavistas are still heavily involved in the grassroots level, whether it be the community councils, community banks, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the elections of the old institutions, which are still carried over from the Fourth Republic, they're not necessarily willing to participate in those to the same extent as they would be willing to participate in the grassroots level of the revolution. The Chavista forces got roughly about 5.3 million votes. Now that's an increase by almost a million from what they received during the constitutional referendum. However, it is a decrease of over 1.5 million from what they received for the presidential election. So from that we can see there is quite a lot of volatility in the electoral process, situation when it comes to the Chavista forces. Another important part of this election showed that there is still a long way to go in terms of the organisation of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela. They've come a long way in terms of bringing together a party of some 5.6 million members, or aspiring members as they're called, but there's still obviously a long way to go. The election results itself shows that you've got a party of 5.6 million people, but still a situation where only roughly 5.3 million were still willing to vote for Chavista candidates for the elections of governors and mayors. So even though it was a big improvement in the organisation of the party, there's still a long way to go in terms of trying to get the party organised and politically motivated its own members to be part of this process.